Texas Motor Speedway on May 3rd, 2026 was not a race. It was a reckoning. By the time the checkered flag dropped on the worth 400, multiple championship contenders had been wrecked, a two-time champion had publicly lost his temper, a young driver's day ended in the wall courtesy of a seething competitor, and one of NASCAR's biggest voices called the sports signature package a complete joke. All of that happened in a single afternoon. And underneath every single moment of it runs one common thread: pressure. The kind that builds quietly over weeks and months until it has nowhere left to go except straight into someone else's door panel at full speed. Chase Elliott won the worth 400 presented by Leaky Moly at Texas Motor Speedway, but calling it a straightforward victory would miss the point entirely. Elliott didn't lead until lap 152 of 267. When Corey Heim pulled the pit road on an off-cycle fuel strategy. From that moment forward, the number 9 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet controlled the race completely. His pit crew delivered their 3 fastest pit stops of the season on the same afternoon. And when Heim spun in turn 4 to bring out the 7th and final caution, Elliott had to survive a 4-lap shootout. With a push from teammate Alex Bowman, he cleared Denny Hamlin off turn 2 and pulled away to win by 0.407 seconds. Clean, fast, and clinical. But the race around that victory was anything but. Kyle Larson, the defending series champion, spun in turn 2 on lap 160 and clobbered the wall with the driver's side of his number 5 Chevrolet. He was done. Christopher Bell, who had actually been leading the race, took evasive action around a spinning Todd Gilliland on lap 68, clipped Gilliland's Ford, and sent his own Toyota rocketing into the outside wall with terminal suspension damage. He finished 38th last. Joey Logano was eliminated by a pit road collision when Cole Custer slowed to let Ty Gibbs exit his stall, and Logano slammed in hard enough to peel back his own left front fender. He retired shortly after, and Ty Gibbs himself was already gone by lap 110, a victim of his own race-long feud with Ryan Preece. 4 legitimate contenders for catastrophic days, all while Elliott quietly drove away with the trophy. Kyle Busch came into Texas having qualified 6th. He ran in the top 5 consistently. He earned stage points. On paper, this looked like it could finally be the day, a legitimate top 10, maybe more. And then came the white flag lap. Coming off the final restart, Busch and John Hunter Nemechek found themselves racing hard for position on the backstretch. The exact details of who moved first remain debated. What happened next, though, is not debated at all. Kyle Busch absolutely slammed into Nemechek's car. Both the number 8 and the number 42 ended the day wrecked. Busch faded to 20th. Nemechek finished 21st, 1 lap down. Nemechek didn't hold back afterward. On X, he posted, "Not freaking clear. Great day going," and just got wrecked. One ass. Busch responded with his own version of events. "I did not start this." The 42 apparently doesn't know where the RS of his car is and where he is in relation to the outside wall. There was 2 foot outside him, and I was judging my left side tires to the hash marks. Always know who you're racing beside. 2 drivers, 2 completely different interpretations of the same incident. But here is the thing that matters. Busch had already been getting into it with Carson Hocevar earlier in the race simply for racing him hard. It was not one bad moment. It was a pattern across the entire afternoon. And if you zoom out further, it is a pattern across the entire 2026 season. The radio chatter, the frustration in his voice, the visible distrust of the strategy, calls being made around him. This has been building for a long time, and Texas was where it finally boiled over in front of everyone. Busch turns 41 years old on May 2nd. He came into Sunday riding a career-worst streak of over 100 starts without a win. This is a man who has 63 career Cup victories, a 2-time champion, a generational talent, and right now, he is sitting 27th in the standings, behind his own teammate Austin Dillon at 25th. That number alone tells you everything about where this situation stands. What makes it even harder to watch is something Busch said just weeks before Texas. Speaking about his son Brexton, who at 10 years old is already winning races in junior competition, Busch explained his motivation this way: "I am raising a little racer myself, right? Brexton sees every weekend, and he's around. He sees me go home, and, he sees me watching SMT film or looking at the data and being in the team meetings. It's for me to show him that there's a lot of work that goes into this, that you have to pour it in order to get the results out of it. That is a man who is racing for something beyond trophies. And yet on Sunday, what Brexton watched his father do was slam into another competitor on the final lap out of pure frustration. The gap between who Busch wants to be and what the circumstances are pulling out of him has never been wider. Richard Childress Racing and Kyle Busch made sense on paper when the deal was signed. Busch had been pushed out of Joe Gibbs Racing to make room for Ty Gibbs, and Childress offered him a lifeline with the historic number 8 car. In 2023, Busch won 3 times with RCR, the only wins he has produced in that partnership. Since then, nothing. Not a single Cup Series victory in the 2024 or 2025 seasons. And in 2026, he has 0 top 5s and 0 top 10s through the first several races of the year, with a best finish of 12th at COTA. Internal changes were made, adjustments on the pit box, strategy overhauls. None of it produced meaningful improvement. People inside the garage point to Martinsville Speedway as the real breaking point this season, a race where handling issues and execution mistakes compounded into something that shifted the entire feel of the relationship. Since then, the temperature inside the number 8 camp has never fully recovered. Around the garage, the belief is near universal. This partnership ends after the 2026 season. What makes the situation more complicated is the backstory. Richard Childress reportedly asked Busch to stay for 2026 not purely for his own performance, but to serve as a mentor to RCR's younger drivers, specifically Jesse Love and Austin Hill, who represent the team's next chapter. Busch agreed. He stayed. He is trying. But when you're a 2-time champion sitting 27th in the standings while the team is asking you to be a mentor rather than a frontrunner, that is an impossible position to be in emotionally. And now the question everyone in NASCAR is asking, where does he go next? The most logical landing spot is Spire Motorsports. Jeff Dickerson, co-owner of Spire, is Busch's former business manager and longtime spotter. The relationship is already there. Busch has also quietly built a track record at Spire in the Truck Series, picking up 4 wins across the last 3 seasons. The foundation exists. The question is whether Spire can structure the deal, whether that means adding a 4th car or transitioning one of their current seats. The second option is 2311 Racing. Kurt Busch, Kyle's older brother and a NASCAR Hall of Famer, currently works as a consultant and coach at 2311. He has already positioned himself inside the organization. Denny Hamlin, who co-owns 2311, was a teammate with Kyle at Joe Gibbs Racing for years. The relationship and chemistry are established. Whether 2311 would expand to a 4th car or open a seat depends on how their current roster performs, but the door is not closed. The third and most speculative option is a Busch Brothers ownership venture. Kurt has openly discussed the possibility of co-owning a Cup team with Kyle after both are fully done driving. The financial challenge is enormous, but names like Michael Andretti, who previously expressed interest in NASCAR and his financial capacity after stepping back for Formula One, have been floated as potential backers. It is a long shot, but it is not impossible. The wild card that cannot be ignored. Brexton Busch turns 11 on May 18th. He is still 5 years away from being eligible for the Truck Series at the earliest. Some believe Kyle would stay in the Cup garage in a placeholder role, just to keep his son connected to the sport's highest level. But watching Texas, it is increasingly clear that Kyle Busch is not wired to be a placeholder for anything. While Busch and Nemechek provided the day's most dramatic moment, they were far from the only drivers hitting their breaking point at Texas. Ryan Preece and Ty Gibbs had their own meltdown that ended Gibbs' afternoon by lap 110. It started in turn 1, where Gibbs made an aggressive late charge to Preece's left that lit the fuse. When the 2 drivers ended up near each other again on a stage 2 restart, Preece surged to Gibbs' rear bumper and sent the number 54 Toyota into the turn 3 wall. The car slammed the safer barrier sideways. Gibbs attempted to continue, but the damage to his Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota was too severe, and he retired in 35th place. Preece's radio rant in the moments before the contact became one of the most shared pieces of audio from the weekend. What a expletive idiot that kid is. He is so lucky his car is so expletive fast. All right, when I get to that 54, I'm done with him. After the race, Preece did not apologize. He explained himself plainly. "I'll be honest with you. I hate that he wrecked, but decisions you make on a racetrack, there are repercussions. And I try to race everybody with an amount of respect that I'd like in return. And when you don't do that, I'm not going to cut you a break." And that's what happened. Gibbs responded on X with an eye roll emoji and a cheers. 3 words and a pair of emojis that communicated exactly what he thought of the whole thing without giving Priest the satisfaction of a genuine reaction. NASCAR's penalty decisions from Texas are also worth examining. Priest was docked 25 points and fined $50,000 for his contact with Gibbs. Kyle Busch received no penalty for intentionally wrecking Nemechek on the final lap. Whether or not that is consistent officiating is a question fans and drivers will be debating for weeks. Meanwhile, Christopher Bell had one of the most frustrating afternoons of his season. He had been running at the front before being wiped out on lap 68. His Starcross 2026 campaign continuing without any sign of turning around. But what Bell said ahead of Texas about the Super Speedway package is what resonated hardest across the garage. Speaking directly with Fox Sports' Bob Pockrass, Bell delivered a pointed, structured critique that went far beyond driver venting. "It's a complete joke, and I look forward to changes." He elaborated specifically, "It's literally a lottery race. It is atrocious. And now the strategy is so spelled out that it comes all about fuel saving." He described the final stages of Super Speedway racing under the current package as a suicide mission of who's going to push the hardest and not get wrecked. And he acknowledged what actually worked. Stage 1 last week was the most entertaining stage that we had over the rest of them. The fuel saving sucks, absolutely, but at least there is some strategy. That is not a driver blowing off steam. That is a driver making a coherent, specific case for why something needs to change structurally before Daytona and Talladega come back around. While everything else was burning down, Chase Elliott was doing what the best drivers do in chaotic races, staying clean, staying fast, and staying patient. Elliott led a race-high 87 laps. He won by 0.407 seconds over Hamlin. This was his second win of the 2026 season, his second career win at Texas, and the 23rd victory of his Cup career. He joins Tyler Reddick as a multiple winner in 2026. He is also the first repeat winner in the last 10 races at Texas Motor Speedway. The broader trend is what makes this genuinely significant. Over his last 30 races dating back to Atlanta last June, Elliott has visited victory lane 4 times. In his previous 87 starts, he had just 1 win. His average laps led per race has gone from 9.3 in that earlier stretch to 18.5 over the last 30. He has also been Hendrick Motorsports' winningest driver since the start of the 2025 season, accounting for 67% of the team's last 6 victories. In the championship picture, Tyler Reddick still leads the series by 109 points over Hamlin and 117 over Elliott. That gap is not insurmountable. Not for a driver who is currently leading races, winning races, and doing it with a pit crew that is peaking at the right time. Denny Hamlin, who finished second to Elliott for the second time this season, acknowledged exactly what happened at the end. "Fortunately, Alex gave me a great push. Was able to execute turns 1 and 2, get clear, and then just kind of manage the last few laps." Those were Elliott's words post-race, but they described a driver in full command of his machine and his moment. The question heading into Watkins Glen is simple. Is this version of Chase Elliott sustainable? Because if it is, the 2026 championship conversation is about to get a lot more complicated for everyone currently sitting ahead of him. Texas was a snapshot of a sport under pressure. Kyle Busch cracking on the final lap. Ryan Preece following through on a threat. Christopher Bell demanding accountability from NASCAR's rulebook. Chase Elliott rising through all of it to win going away. Every single one of those storylines connects to the others. Busch's frustration at RCR bleeds into how he races. How he races affects other drivers. How other drivers respond creates incidents. And while all of that chaos unfolds, Elliott is quietly building a championship case that nobody was seriously discussing at the start of this season. Watkins Glen is next. Tempers do not cool in 7 days. And in a season that is starting to feel genuinely unpredictable, the most dangerous thing anyone can say right now is that they know exactly what happens next.